Good evening. You are listening to Superhuman Channel Talk Radio. I'm your host, Todd Smith, aka Mass Avenger. Hey, I just want to share this news feed with you all today. Today, I want to share about Phil Spencer Big Break. And the reason why I call it that title, because Phil Spencer, since he's been working for Microsoft and since he's been pushing the Xbox One brand, that's been a wonderful thing, because I remember that Xbox was on his way out of here. I thought Xbox going to die, and that took place in E3 2013. That when Don Mattrick, was over Microsoft division, game division, and man, how this guy was talking, I thought that he would cause a Microsoft to lose on purpose, man. I just thought he just gave the baton. How can I say it? I just thought he just gave the ball, to Sony when that event happened. And I remember when Phil Spencer was there, introducing the games and stuff like that. And I remember that day was hot. But I was actually looking at this thing like it was a Super Bowl game, and when Don Mattrick turned around and did that, man, I said, man, it's over for Microsoft. I thought it was gone. Really, I thought it was gone. And then it seemed like like going to 2014, when Phil Spencer, came over Microsoft. It's like when 2014 start coming, and then you start seeing the changes in Microsoft, and that's a good thing that they have someone like that over that division. It was a news source, like I said, on Superhuman Channel we share your news feed, but it was on a news source, an N4G news source said that Phil Spencer would be happy to see Nintendo games on the Xbox One. Is this a possibility? And yeah, it's all depends, how Nintendo doing things right now. If Nintendo don't turn out well, and the code name NX don't turn out well, it's a possibility that Nintendo will actually become a third party. And, third party developers. I'm not trying to put Phil and people hard, because the thing is, I'm a Nintendo fan. That's when I started playing games. The best games I used to play was, let me say it, from this division, back then, let me say it plainly, back then when Nintendo actually came out, and the two companies, developers that I used to play the game the most was Konami and Capcom. When I used to buy them title, I know I was getting a good game when I actually bought them title. Then I was, buying Onyx games, which is Square Onyx, but back then they were called Onyx. So this is a big thing, in a way, just like Sega did. Sega turned around and had a great downfall, because they were getting beat up all down the years. When Nintendo came out with the entertainment system, and when Sega had a Master System, they were getting defeated. Then when they came, with the Sega Genesis, which it was a good system, but when the Super Nintendo came out with more color and more graphic and the sound, that was so good, that came from Sony's department, the sound chip that came from Sony's department, that make the game sound so high quality, it didn't make no sense back in the early 90s when all this took place. And that's when Sony and Nintendo about to work together and create a system, until I don't know what happened. Nintendo ran to Philip Games, and you saw it just was a big horrible mess. But Sega had been losing a lot of battles against their competition. The worst battle that they had lost against Sony, and especially when Sony had issue out the PS2, to the audience, to people like us. And then that's the first thing we ran and buy, over the Sega Dreamcast, which it wasn't a bad system. It was an awesome system, but it just couldn't beat that DVD player. So since then, they became a third party developer. So it's a possibility what Phil Spencer saying is actually, can be correct, or it actually can be a possibility. You know, it's all depending on how Nintendo would do, especially with the new CEO in place. Another thing that I like what Phil Spencer said about Microsoft, you know, I get, you know, credit who is due, that he said that he believed that Microsoft, you know, the Xbox One would have a bright, you know, 2016. And you will see many games will be launched in that time frame. I know 2015, it'd be, you know, like harvest time for video games. So he know what he's talking about, but this man is actually rise Xbox One from the dead, because Xbox One was gone. And especially with that DRM nonsense, you know, I don't know what Don Mattrick was thinking. And then especially, you know, he was doing an interview with Jeff Keighley, and then what he said out of his mouth, if you can't afford an Xbox One, then you can get a 360. And man, I'm like, had my head down like, man, what is this guy, you know, what is this guy talking about? And then that when Jack Trent, you know, he's Trent, he's not over Sony now. He, you know, actually retired after that. I think he retired after that, you know, E3 2013. And he was kind of scared. Jack Trent was kind of scared when he got up there, you know, and he was very nervous, you know, when he turned around and actually did it, you know, but he got up there on the stage, and you can watch it on YouTube and have that flashback moment, you know, and see how scared he was. They really thought that they're gonna lose E3 2013. But find out later, Sony turned around and came out, you know, with this, you know, with the CD versus download, and say you can get rid. You know, if you turn around and keep your game, it's yours. But how they were planning on doing it at first, that the game wouldn't be yours, you know, because the DRM nonsense. So I believe Sony about to do that too, but they just let Microsoft have to, you know, walk onto the fire and then burn themselves up. And then they came along and said, you know what, we're going to change this plan because we see that this not going to work. So we're going to remove the DRM, because they had consoles, you know, coming out that had that problem. And I think you had to have a firmware update, you know, to turn around and stop it, you know. So they're about to do it too. And I believe it's a possibility that they did it, but they knew it wasn't going to turn out right later. And just put them in that #1 slot. And today Sony's still selling, and Xbox One is coming up with it. You know, special thanks to Phil Spencer. You know, man, I admire this man courage. I give, you know, credit, you know, who is due. I admire his courage. People say that Sony won E3 2015. I didn't see it like that. I believe Microsoft really won that. And I still say today, you know, I love Sony, you know, titles and stuff like that. And I've been playing Sony. I still play Sony today. But at the same time, I give credit, you know, who is due. You know, Phil Spencer really, even my son brought that to my attention, which is my co-host, that Phil Spencer actually turned that whole thing around, man. He really did good with Microsoft. So I give him kudos, and this is a big break, and it's something he should celebrate about, because the thing is, if it wasn't for Phil Spencer versus Don Mattrick, who actually almost about to destroy Microsoft, because I thought, I ain't gonna lie, I'm laughing about it now. Well, I know me and you fanboys watching this video, y'all would be, you know, be angry, but at the same time, he actually turned that company around, man. He really did. I agree with Rich, the review overtech USA guy, what he said about, you know, Spencer, when Matthew, he just was a jerk at that time. Just I don't know what he was thinking, but he actually changed Microsoft around, man. And I give him that credit. So it's a big break for him. And man, I thank you all for you all listening. Share me y'all comments what you think about this show, you know, on Superhuman Channel Talk Radio, and give me your thoughts. And also, you know, go to subscribe to, you know, to this YouTube channel. And also, I thank you all for you supporting me, and thank you all for you listening. My name is Todd Smith, aka Master Avenger. Thank you all for you tuning in. Peace.